Welcome to the City of South Bend, Washington. This City Council meeting was held on April 14th, 2025.
Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, everybody. All right, if you could grab that sheet, I know we've got items from the public tonight, from the back there, please. You want to call them then?
Jim Hunter? Here? Yeah.
You want to
Do you wanna
speak?
speak
It's
on it?
it's your time to speak.
Is it now?
Yep,
Yes.
items from the public, item number 3.
Oh, okay. Well, it's regarding the library, so you don't wanna have a discussion then?
No, it's not a public hearing, it's.
No, I understand,
Yeah.
I'm just being crystal clear.
Okay,
Okay.
there is another opportunity at the end of the meeting for public comments regarding current agenda items. If you would like to hold it until then, after we hold the library discussion, that is fine too.
Okay, it would be easier to talk about knowing what you're gonna tell us.
That's
So,
fine, that's fine.
I'll wait.
That'll give you another opportunity at that time.
All right, thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Bruce, would you like to talk now or would you like to wait?
I'll wait.
Diantha,
I'll wait also, thank you.
okay. Michelle,
I'll go now.
Okay.
My
If you could
Not
state your
actually
name
not
for
that.
the crowd
Yes.
on Facebook, that would be great.
name is Michelle Zilli. I'm the regional manager of the Pacific County Libraries, including South Bend. And I thought I would come and bring you a sort of a quarterly update with some 2024 facts about the library. So South Bend, as of the end of last year, had 156 active card holders. There are about a little over 1,500 folks who have cards that registered through South Bend, but the active ones that are actively using their cards is about 156. Now, what I thought was really interesting was that there's 156, but the majority of those are kids. 75 of those 156 are kids between 10 and 15 years old. I just think that's really interesting that the bulk of the users here are youth. I think that's a lovely reflection on how the community uses the library. And as you know, the building itself was shut down at the end of July. So between January and July, though, there were 81 events at the library in just those 6-7 months, with a total attendance of 799 people. So it is a highly used facility. In 2024, there were just under 6,000 digital checkouts from Libby, which is our online ebook and audiobook service that we have. And then in 2024, about 6,500 total physical checkouts. And so those would be though reflective of books and materials that were checked out of South Bend, and then also wherever that library card user went, like perhaps the Raven Library in the last half of the year, because it's connected to their library account and where their home library is registered. So the top fiction book checked out by South Bend patrons last year was Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, and the top nonfiction book was a kid's book called The Book of Mysteries, Magic, and the Unexplained by Tamara McFarland, which I think is very, very great. Let's see, I do have some information on some of our upcoming events at the library. I have a whole stack here and I'll let you guys share those around. We are still having the, what's it called? Bricks and Brews? Yes, Bricks and Sips at Wildman Brewing. That's still happening here locally. And then I also wanted to tell you that I don't know if you know, but we have a TRL podcast. It is called No Shh the Tarot podcast, which is a little, it's kind of funny, you know it is. And there's about 14 episodes so far, which you can find anywhere you get your podcasts at. And then, including things like Show Me the Money, which talks about how we get our funding, and Why Is It So Loud in Here, which talks about the changes in libraries over time, and then 10 Things They Didn't Teach Me in Library School, which is interesting aspects of things that we did not expect when we went into this profession. And I was just talking with Tanya Rembers, who of course you know used to be the manager of Raymond South Bend, and she's told me that it's anecdotal, but she and Ann talk to a lot of the people that attend the programs at the Raymond Library, and she really thinks that the majority of people that attend the programs there are from the community of South Bend. So people here, if they don't have their facility, they're heading right down the road and still using library services. So I thought that was really interesting that this community is really very invested in their libraries. So I have a little bit of information. You're welcome, or that I'll leave here if you don't mind.
Sure.
That you guys can just pass
Can
it
I keep
around
that copy of your stats on?
of my scrappy stats. My
Yeah.
handwritten. Okay, so all of the data that we have a open data portal on our website, and that's where all of our data comes from. So you're welcome to poke around in there and find out all kinds of things.
I know I'm driving to Raymond.
Yeah, so you're one of the ones.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Lot of kids programs. They really
Yes.
enjoy them.
Yes, exactly. And we're happy to have folks come to the Raymond Library, so. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Doesn't appear that we do. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Great report.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else on this list?
Brent, would you like to speak now?
Yes, when the library was shut, I mentioned that one of the major uses in the afternoon during the weekdays were small children, elementary school children.
Yeah.
And the closing of the library, those children will probably not be able to get into Raymond. So you, as city, said you were going to look into the possibility of having an alternative space open in the afternoons during the week just for those children. You have not done this. I know you looked into it. You have not done it. Those children have been sacrificed. That's my comment.
Okay. Anyone else?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Let's move on to item 4. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda, the consent agenda, and the minutes for March 24th, 2025. So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Or any opposed? Motion carries. Do we have any correspondence?
None.
Okay. So moving on to item 6, approval of the South Bend Spring Cleanup for the week of June 9th through 14th, 2025. And this is when it works for the dump. Royal Heights. Couldn't think of the name of it for a second. The question is, we've had one every year. It does cost us money to do that. It's about $3,000 if I remember correctly. So the question is, do we want to have a spring cleanup? And if so, I would entertain a motion to that effect.
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll have a spring cleanup. Oh, I should also say that Darren Manlow is excused tonight. He did let us know ahead of time that he would be unable to be here this evening. So moving on to item 7, approval of the intergovernmental agreement for courtroom security services. And Lucas, I'll let you talk just a little bit about that and give everyone kind of a heads up what that's about. I know we did before, but we've got a lot of public here tonight.
This contract is the same contract we passed 4 months ago for the police department to provide security services to the North District Court. They do not have security. They can't use the jail staff like they used to use in the past. So they have since contracted with us. We did it for the last 3 months. We thought it was going to be a temporary basis. And things are working so well, they are asking if we can stay on through the remainder of the year. So this contract just extends it from, the old one was through the end of March. This one changes it to, the end of December. So, my officers are willing to do it. We haven't had any issues. The city of Raymond also has a similar contract that are, they're used as backup in case we cannot provide somebody to be there. So,
There is a typo, that is significant in, item number 5, under the relationship of parties. Said it is understood by the parties that the contractor is not an employee. So that should be stricken, and it should be understood that we are not an employee of the county. So I would say if we're going to pass this, we need to clarify that with the county, make sure they update their version of this before we sign it. So, all right, so I would entertain a motion to approve this contract for this agreement for courtroom
I got a
security
question before we
services.
do it. Do they have any, do they have any future plans of resolving their staffing issues where this is not a permanent thing for us?
they are currently working on it. So far, I think, don't quote me, some of their staff are certified and are providing court security for South District Court. So, I think it's just a matter of getting the rest of the staff certified, commissioned, excuse me. So they're in the process, but right now, it's helping them ease that burden by having us there. So,
And so far, it hasn't not been a burden with your department as
Not
far
at
as
all.
coverage?
nope, not at
Yeah.
all. The guys are, they're all taking turns. Actually, I think next week, Raymond PD is covering a shift because we didn't have anybody to sign up. So, yeah.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the agreement.
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Or any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so we're gonna move on to item 8, approval of Pacific County Jail Services contract for boarding prisoners. And again, Chief, I would ask you if you would speak to that, please.
This one is, we have not had a current contract with Pacific County Jail, or prior to that was the sheriff's office. We had been operating without a contract for many years. So this is our first contract in a few years. There are only a couple minor changes, which, Chief Matlock, Chief Wright from Long Beach, and I have sat down with the jail director and discussed them. The one is a $5 increase of our daily rate, that goes into effect, it looks like January 1st of 26. And then some language about the cities being responsible for our prisoners, that have to go to the hospital. So it's pretty standard. We're doing it anyway. We are responsible for them. If it's a misdemeanor charge, they're being held on our local charges. We are responsible for the, transportation and security at the hospital until they go back to the jail. So I believe those are the only changes in this contract, which predates I think it's the same one that we've had with the sheriff's office for the last 12 years. Typically it got renewed every 4 years. But it didn't happen in 2022. So now with the passage of it, we will have a contract with jail services.
I would entertain a motion to approve the jail services contract. So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, review of bids for the Cheney Ball Field Sport Court Maintenance Project. You want to talk about that one?
Sure. So on March 19th, we had received 4 responsive bids for the Cheney Ball Field Sport Maintenance Project. Rollins was the lowest bidder at $107,431.78. Engineers recommended that we go with the lowest responsive bidder, which is Rollins. And I asked if the council award that project to Robbins.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to award the Cheney Ballfield Sport Court Maintenance Project to Roblins Incorporated.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, ordinance number 1605, ordinance of the city council. The comprehensive plan provided for severability and establish an effective date. And I'll let Will Hamlin talk about that just a little bit.
So the House passed House Bill 1181, which requires all fully planning jurisdictions to add a climate resilience element to your comprehensive plan. The 11 largest counties had to do like a greenhouse gas emissions thing as well. These are goals and policies based on things that we think we can do or try to do moving into the future to sort of reduce our impacts and mitigate for development. Again, with the comprehensive plan, they're, goals and policies, they're not regulation. So, keep that in mind when we think about it. It went through Commerce for the 60-day review and to the state, and it has met their criteria as of now. So the laws are still being tweaked and changed a little bit. So when South Bend has to do their full comprehensive plan update, I think in 27, there'll probably be some tweaks to it, during that time because of the ever-changing, legislation. But everything seems to be good to go with Commerce. They're happy. I'm pretty happy. So yeah, if you guys have any questions or concerns.
Thank you for your work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 1605 regarding the comprehensive plan.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion?
I think it's a great plan. From what I read in here with all of the mitigation of all the bad stuff that's going on. I'm really happy to pass this.
Good.
Very happy to pass this.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, now we'll move on to the library discussion. The reason you're all here tonight. So we have received more information, and that's why we're finally able to talk and share just a little bit. And I will just read you the brief that I have provided for the council regarding this. Discussion points. So cost estimates to refurbish the current library building. The asbestos patch, and that's just a patch to replace the ceiling and seal the asbestos in where it's exposed in the wall, is $300,000. We have about $90,000 left of insurance money that we could use toward that. In that scenario, asbestos exposure would remain a future liability. If the walls were scored for any reason, a child throws a chair or a toy or whatever and dings the wall, then the asbestos is exposed again, and we're facing this scenario all over again. That's the patch. A complete asbestos removal and reconstruction, we have two estimates. One is $800,000 and the other is $1 million. And at that point, the building would be permanently safe from future asbestos exposure. And then we also have the Commerce Grant and the TRL monies and the Friends monies that we're going to redo the front steps and add a drainage system around the foot of the building. And in 2023 dollars, that was about $500,000, and it's probably more now because costs have escalated. They haven't gone down due to inflation. So, and we don't have any other designated funding in place for that. That $90,000 insurance money would be used for the asbestos, either patch or replacement. So we have several options. The first option is to patch the asbestos and move forward with the front steps drainage project. This would leave the building vulnerable to future asbestos exposure, and the city would have to find a way to continue to mitigate and maintain the building. We would have to find an additional $200,000 to cover the cost of the patch, and the total cost would be about $800,000. Plus, if you add the front steps project in, and we don't know what the plus would be for the front steps project because of the inflationary costs. And the second option is to do a complete asbestos removal, reconstruction, and front step drainage project. And that total cost would be $1.3 to $1.5 million, plus any inflationary costs to the front steps drainage project. The third option is to build or lease a new building. And under that header, Raymond is interested in having one library to serve both communities. And Cheryl Haywood, I spoke with her, TRL might be interested in that as well, in building a new building. So my point of view, I don't feel like it's appropriate to just do a patch, because that leaves the city open to this whole scenario again in the future, and it will happen in the future. It's just a matter of time before a wall is exposed, and then we're facing this several $100,000 to do it again. The building's not worth $1.5 million. So unless we have a big benefactor that really wants to see the library sustained and in place, I don't know where we would come up with $1.5 million to do that project, to do it right. So I'm leaning personally toward a new building of some type. I feel like that's the best scenario given the costs of this. And I understand that's disappointing to folks that love our library. I love our library building too, but it's tremendously expensive to fix it, and I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to come up with those kinds of dollars. And I question whether that's the best use of public funds, to put $1.5 million into a building that isn't worth that on its face. That's my thoughts, so I would hear what the council has to say.
Okay, I watch a lot of TV and I see wedding videos where people will spend $40,000 or $50,000 on a 10-minute ceremony and nothing on the rest of their lives. And I just wonder, you know, what are we paying for? Are we paying for the memory? Are we paying for nostalgia? Which is, none of this is not important, but in a city that is facing what we're facing, I think that we need to be a kind of realistic, you know. Are we paying for the wedding, or do we want to pay for a marriage that would last 50 or 60 or how many years? And if that is joining up with Raymond, I mean, Raymond's not our enemy. I understand that the location of the library is important to a lot of people. But it seems to me that Pacific County has a lot of transportation opportunities for people that can pick them up and take them. So I don't know if I'm making any sense at all. That I would, if it comes to having any library at all, or just being in this building, is the building just the wedding and not the long-term marriage? That's all I have to say.
Okay, anyone else? Thoughts?
My
We're not making any decisions here tonight. We're just talking about it. We're gonna have to,
Right.
My largest concern is it's a city-owned building, okay?
Yeah.
I've dealt with plenty of asbestos projects in the past. You're gonna have to deal with it either now or later. Whether we fix the building or not, you're still gonna have the cost of abatements.
we can sell it as is. We can just seal it
You
up and
can,
sell it
or,
as
I mean,
is.
how many years has that been encased? Are we talking friable, non-friable? What category of asbestos we talking?
It's all over in the plaster, so.
Okay.
And it's lead, there's lead also in all the paint.
Sure. And how many years has that been encased? Since the seventies?
Probably, yeah.
So I mean, we went, how many years was it encased?
Mhm.
What's the issue of putting a couple $100,000 at this building, re-encasing it, opening this thing back up and giving the community the opportunity to raise money to fix it for the long term?
Number one, we don't have the money.
Why don't we?
We have 90,000. We need 210 more.
About our money across the river,
And then across the river.
our bonds. You guys borrowed a bunch of money for streets that's supposed to get repaid.
Right.
They're not there to fix the building.
I don't think that's fair.
I'm just looking for our options. I mean,
I
it's a
know.
historical landmark that means a lot to a lot of people who've lived here for a lot of years. And, you know, it's kind of like looking at the courthouse and saying, yeah, it's ready to fall down. Let's just let it fall down. I mean, let's look at our options deeply before we decide to say, let's
Well,
build a
for
brand new
sure.
building.
Well, of course, but
You know?
streets are important to people too.
We're
Well,
not
and
using all
that's-
that money for the street. We borrowed money until
Yeah,
our
and that
funds came
money's
back,
not-
then the money's supposed to get paid back.
Exactly. Yeah, that's not like it's spent forever.
No,
This would be.
that was
a-
only supposed to be like a 1 or 2 month deal and the money was supposed to be going back.
Right, and we still haven't gotten reimbursed,
Yeah,
so,
and that was a couple months ago.
yeah, and it's not our hangup, it's the
Right.
entity that has not paid out at this point. It's been submitted 5 times.
Okay.
Yeah,
But I mean, we've waited this long for the building. I'm willing to wait a little bit longer till our money comes back and maybe look at our options and I don't see why. In fact, you might be surprised if people in the public, you let them know that we can get this building over 300,000, how many people might step up willing to pay for that building.
Oh, there you go. Maybe,
You might be surprised.
and maybe we won't be surprised. They just
And then we're left with no other options.
need to
When
know.
you don't have the money, you don't have the money.
It's more than the 210, because we still have the front steps drainage project that has to be done to keep the mold issues at bay. And the front steps are not, gonna last much longer either. And we do have a commerce grant for part of that,
Right.
but it's not gonna cover the inflationary cost, which, how much is that? 100, 200,000? We just don't know. Yeah, we have no clue.
I don't believe in feeding the dying horse either, but
Yeah.
I'm willing to fight for that building.
Okay, that's fair. Anyone else?
So is TRL happy with a patch? When they talked about it earlier, they said they'd have to get rid of all the books, all the shelving,
Right.
all the carpet, so that still has to happen. Is that part of the,
No, it's not.
Their own
But
insurance will
some,
pay.
yeah,
for
so I
the
was
cost
just
of
gonna
their
say, some of
materials.
their stuff will be covered by their insurance for their library.
yeah, I think we need to, look at this and have maybe some meetings with Friends of the Library and.
Yeah, my whole thing is of building. My church dissolved because of lack of, I'm an old person and old people go to church and they stop going to church and so we had to close our church. So we had to go to another church, which was a different denomination, but it served the purpose. The building was not our our source of strength and community and everything. It wasn't the building, it was the community of the people. So I just, maybe it's just, because I've moved so many times in my life, buildings don't hold that hold over me like they do a lot of people. And I understand, how it is, but sometimes what the building represents is more important than the building itself, so.
Well, I have to say, I'm happy to hear that, how many kids? 799 people attended the 81 events from January to July.
Yeah.
And transportation, we have buses, but it's not the same. All these kids that live in the neighborhood can ride their bikes and walk to the library. And so I mean, I'm not in favor of going to Raymond one bit.
Mm-hmm.
As far as I'm concerned, they've, taken over our court, our chamber, and, we have to stand for something.
Yeah.
And, people move here because we have a library. It's important to them.
And there, Raymond is not talking about keeping their building either. It would be a new building for both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because their building is in trouble too, is my understanding. So that was a conversation that I had anyway, was it, if we build a new one, that they would
Yeah, but how do you
potentially
build a
want
new
to
building
be-
if you don't have $90,000 to fix the one you have? You're not gonna build a building for $90,000.
No, we'll get grant funding probably for that, to build a new building.
Yeah.
There's no seismic grants available for this old building for seismic activity to fix it?
I don't know about seismic, that's not our issue.
I know, but it's a great way to get money for a remodel.
Okay.
I've seen it done time and time again.
Well, I don't know. Like I say, this is just what the information that we have right now, and I'm just throwing it out there so that everyone can see where we're at, numbers we're talking about. We're making no decisions about what we're
Right.
doing right now. These are just our options, and this is where we're at. So, I mean, we have to have a real dose of reality here, that this is where we're at, this is what it's potentially going to cost.
Right.
And where do we want to go? This is a beginning point, it's not an end point.
No.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought the steps were 300,000. Am I wrong about that? They were
Well,
always
it's the steps and
500.
the drainage around the bottom, that's all one project, all tied in. But I believe Jenny knows, correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny, but it was 250,000 from Commerce, 150 from TRL, and then we got 40,000 from .09, and then.
Combined amount
Yeah.
available is just a little bit shy of 500 grand.
Yeah,
And then when you guys went through with GNO and they did all of their estimates and stuff, the cost had like tripled from the first time we started talking about it in
Yeah.
2017, so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that was 2023 dollars, and now we're in 2025. And so I would bet minimum at least another 100,000, maybe more.
It's really unfortunate what's happening with the economy, because in 2022, I think Timberland actually got a bid from a plaster contractor to replace the entire plaster for 30 grand.
Yeah.
And then because we got the grant from Commerce, they decided not to move forward with that. They were going to spend their own money to do it because there was water damage when the roof was getting put on. Abatement of the basement in 2018 cost us $30,000. So like, just to give you an idea of how things have changed, it could have all been done before anything happened for significantly less money, which just really makes me sad, honestly. So much work has been put into it. A lot of money has been put into it over the past 5 years.
And that's my concern for the
Yeah.
future. We do the patch and, you know, in a few years, the city's gonna be potentially right back where we are again, you know.
So
And
I
that's-
will say the Friends do have a little bit more additional funds that weren't used as match. That's primarily why I'm here, is to just, you know, say that we're here, we're willing to help. If you guys do decide that you would like to try and find funding to fix the building, I'm happy to work with that. We had spoken to the person who administers the community block grants probably about a year ago. Ravana was talking with him and he was trying to think of ways that we could leverage the grant that we already have for commerce and get more money, which seemed like a possibility, but only municipalities can apply for that. We couldn't apply for it as a nonprofit.
Right.
So I think there are ways to get money, whether or not we could get as much as we need, I don't know. But in 2017, a community member did come forward and give us the money that we needed to make the repairs then. So I'm with Wyatt. It never hurts to ask.
I say exhaust
but-
resources first, because,
Yeah,
you know, that is a neat old building, and
It's-
there's very few left in the town to
there's
give
a
us
lot
the
of people
character that
who
this town
love
does
that
have.
building. And there's a lot of
So-
people who pass through, who stop to look at it, and people who grew up here, who make a point of stopping when they're in town. It's a big part of the community. It's well placed. It's on people's grocery store, post office, bank, circuit.
If it didn't have the architectural value it has, I'd be,
Yeah, I mean,
Totally-
there's
totally for
only
getting
a
rid of it.
handful of
Because
Carnegie
it- yeah,
libraries left in.
it's always gonna
Pacific
be
Northwest
something that's
at
gonna
this
cost you
point.
money.
I think there's maybe 20, something like that,
Yeah.
in our area. So it is a landmark. It's beautiful. We love it and we want to save it. But I also understand the position that the city's in, you
Yeah.
know, it's,
No, I think if it can be saved reasonably,
yeah.
it should be.
Okay, anything else from any council member?
I'm kind of agreeing with these guys that it's worth looking into. I don't know that it's totally possible, but it's definitely worth looking into. Understanding that everybody who loves the library should also understand that if they put the money into that, and we do have, which is very possible, an earthquake or something here, and it cracks the walls, then we're back to square one and maybe worse. So, I mean, just understand that's a possibility. So, like, in a lot of ways, when you're talking about, sad to say, but putting money into a dead horse is sometimes the way that you gotta look at it when you don't have the funds. So to me, it's worth looking into whether it's gonna be totally possible. I don't know. You just have to see, but I do think it's worth looking into. And again, we're not making a decision tonight anyway, so.
No, I just wanted
So-
everyone to be apprised of where we're at and what our options are.
I personally would hate to see it close as well, but
We all would, we all want to
absolutely.
not see
So-
it closed.
Okay. So let's move on to department head reports. Chief Siegel,
I have nothing.
Supervisor Haupt,
I have nothing.
Clerk Treasurer Johnson.
I think at this time.
Okay, I looked at Chief McGee here. He's not, it was listed on my paper, but he's not here. All right, and I don't have anything either. So now it's the time for you folks to speak that wanted to hold your comments. So go ahead. That would be you.
Okay, the first thing I wanna kind of, let me introduce it by saying I've been talking to people around the community and trying to get a picture of how people feel about it, and that's kind of how I've approached this. The first thing I wanna address is the issue of asbestos. I queried Mr. Hauk and a member of the TRL bar about whether we were considering what is called encapsulation. And what I think we're talking about when we talk about encapsulation is the same thing that you're calling a patch.
Yes.
And what I'd want to say about encapsulation is it's environmentally a more desirable solution than abatement, because you take that asbestos out, then you have to take it and put it somewhere where it has to be stored, all very expensive. But the thing about asbestos is if it's not friable, it's not a threat. I believe, I don't know, but that I have asbestos wrapped pipes in my basement, and they're wrapped in a canvas, which may have been the encapsulation 50 years ago. It needs to be done again. But I would rather surround it and keep it than to have it go out into the environment and have to pay for that. So I don't think patch is appropriate notion of encapsulation. Encapsulation, it may have to be done to the whole building if there's more friability, and that'll be more expense. But encapsulation, I believe, is the preferred treatment for asbestos. So I wanted to add that the Historic Society is very interested in preserving the building. One time, the member I talked to said, we have tons of money, and another time they said they had a little money. So that's how people talk when people start talking about money, but I think you need to talk to the Historical Society, what they're interested in saving the building is, and what they might be able to contribute. The thing that I really got from people when I talked around, and some of these are the older people that used it in the past, but the library was a place to go. And a lot of times they were describing their experience as children. And we've seen that children are an important component. And to pack up your 2 or 3 or 4 kids and put them on the bus and take them to Raymond, you probably, a mom that's harried, probably isn't going to get that done, as she might walk down to the library or send the kids on their bike. So whether it's this building or not, that important role for children in the community needs not to be ignored and not found a solution, whether it's in this building or another. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's next? Bruce.
Yeah, I've been here for 32 years and known a fair number of people in the city, and I gotta say, the elephant in the room here, South Bend has wanted to get out of this building for a long time. And as I listen to numbers, what I'm hearing personally is I'm hearing numbers used for justifying something that was decided a long time ago. I don't like to hear it. Sorry, Julie.
That's okay.
This is my moment. And thank you, Wyatt. You have, I think we're in agreement, but that's my view.
Thank you. Okay, I think it's so ironic how asbestos has become the demon. When I was a kid in Astoria burned a couple times. My dad had asbestos shingles put around our house, and he was so proud of that. The house was now safe from burning. The asbestos has gotten its bad rap, and I know it's got dangers and stuff like that, but I think that he's right about the encapsulation. Not only is it less expensive, but actually it's better for the environment entirely. So I think he's right there. I think also I'd like to see a breakdown between the encapsulation and the drainage / stairway problem. I think there's 2 different things that we could probably pay for one, and then down the road pay for the other. And the asbestos, of course, would come first. Whether or not you pay for the building, if you get it fixed, it's going to be there. You're going to tear it down, that's going to be an expense too. It's going to be, every time you walk past it, you're going to be thinking, God, we missed out on something here if we don't take care of this building. It's not just the kids too, it's the adults. How many times have they tell somebody, go to the librarian can help you get your computer taken care of. Jenny has wonderful computer skills, the other librarians do too. And they're a great resource for us older people that need help with our computers. So it's not just the kids, it's the adults too. This library is not the Tiverton Library. I've had some problems with it sometimes because of its because it wanted to do what it did at Raymond Library. I don't want them to see that here. The historic building is important. It really is. And people come to here to see the building. They come here to do that. And People, we're gonna get into a doggone Norwegian fishing building, a village? Come on, let's be real.
Anybody remember
Yeah,
that?
this is a real part of our history. It's been a library all the way through, from 1913 to World War I, World War II. They had reading rooms before that and got them, if you look at the paper, history of the paper, people wanted a library so bad. They had reading rooms. They put up 5 cents in some, just of money to try and get a reading room going. And I think we ought to continue with that. I think our community deserves it, and it's worthwhile. Let's look for the money. We can find it. And let's break down between the 2 different projects and take care of that asbestos first, get the building fixed, get the walls fixed, the shelves back in, and the books in. And I think we're going to have something we're really proud of, and we'll be glad we did it.
Okay, anyone else?
Yeah, you made no comment about the kids. No, the kids that I noticed, I go now, of course, to the Raymond Library. Those are middle and high school kids that are going in there after school in their meetings. I don't know if they're Raymond or the South End, but middle and high school, they can use public transportation. There are kids that use the upstairs in Raymond. They're with parents. Parents who are able to bring them on weekday afternoons to the school. South Bend. When I eyeballed those kids, these were elementary school kids. They were oftentimes brought there by their older siblings. They were preschool kids brought by their older siblings. Their parents were probably working 2 jobs. Both were there for single family income families. Those are the kids. You didn't make a comment on this, but I said you are sacrificing by not offering them a space here in South Bend, within 300 yards of this building. Do you know how many kids there are down there in the single wides and the double wides? These are the kids that need the library. These are kids from families. They are usually the translators for their families. They are integrating into American society, and their families, their parents, are contributing. Their aunts and uncles and their grandparents are contributing to our society, to our economy here in this area. We are sacrificing these kids. Okay, so that's that person. With Diantha. You're saying we can't do the asbestos because we have to spend $500,000 on the steps. As Diantha says, that's just backwards. The steps are nothing. That's a moot point. The steps are not going to be improved if we don't have the library. Spend the money on the asbestos and the lead. I'm an old person. I can get up those steps. If I can't get up those steps, they got a nice little library lift there. That can wait for a few years. For the library to reopen, you have to mitigate the interior. And whether you want to patch or whether you want to do it entirely, I don't know. But if you've got $500,000 that you're not going to spend on the steps, you've got a certain amount that you can spend on the interior. And so,
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Is that it? Okay. All right, moving on to council comments. Councilor Kuiken.
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming. It's quite a full house compared to what we usually have, and
Yeah.
And I respect everybody's input. That's all I have.
Councilor Corcoran.
I'm good.
Councilor Davis.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and I think we need to just do some more talking and look at bids and see what, when you call it patching, is that encapsulating?
Yeah.
And I think we could probably find the money to do that, I think that somehow. What do you think, Jenny?
So the reason that the steps were prioritized to be repaired with the grant money is because that was the big ticket item when we had GNO come and do a structural assessment. After Timberland forced the city to do that because their insurance company had identified some issues. So that's why the money was going towards that, because we knew that we would never be able to do it if we didn't have grant funding. That said, I also know not Chamber of Commerce, the Department of Commerce is fairly flexible with their funding. I think the hitch would be, and that money it's in the state capital budget. I imagine that it has a due date for when it needs to be spent by, which I imagine is probably October, end of the federal fiscal year, or would it be state? I'm not sure how that contract runs.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
But,
Yeah.
the contract was signed in 2023, so we're running up to the kind of point of no return with that grant money, but certainly, yes, the steps are there and they still work.
Well, grants are double-edged sword. You have to use them what you applied for them for.
Yeah, you do, but I think all of the state agencies that dole out money, Commerce is probably the most flexible. And I think that it's really possible that if we said, hey, change of scope because we've had this other issue come up, they would probably let you use the money. Then the steps would continue to be an issue, the basement drainage would be an issue. It is possible that you could spend all of that money and encapsulate the asbestos, and Timberland would say, we're not willing to have a library because you didn't fix the drainage in the basement.
That's my concern, that TRL isn't gonna be happy.
Yeah, and I think that whatever happens, they need to be fully on board, because I just don't want the city to be put in a position where we do a bunch of work and we save the building and they say that they don't use it. The good thing is they did
Honestly, I
sign.
wouldn't put us in that position. We'll talk to TRL.
If the grant money
Yeah.
is spent, they are obligated to keep it as a library, because that was part of the condition of the grant, was that the building has to be open to the public and used as a library for 10 years following the grant funds being.
That's the hardest part with Timberland is
Yeah,
they don't rent
they don't.
it.
Yeah.
You're giving them a
It's-
free place to house, and
It's
with no
the-
income coming
the
in,
way
it
that
falls on us all
these
the time.
and the library work together is not positive. It
Yeah.
never has been. It's not a really good model. It's especially considering the fact that, cities, at least in our part of the state, just don't have that much income to maintain a building. But, all of that said, again, we've got some money. I'm willing to help with grants. I'm willing to talk to people, make calls. Ravenel is also, she wanted to be here, but she's still recovering from having her ACL patched back together. But, we're willing to do whatever we can do to make it happen. I think it is possible that we could use the money from the grant for asbestos.
I don't know that it is.
But it
We
might
were
not,
told-
yeah. it
We
might
were
not
told
be.
if the library is not currently open, we were not allowed to use the Commerce funding.
Yeah,
So they aren't gonna fix the front steps unless the library
unless the
is
library's
open. And so I don't think that you could shove it over to
Yeah.
asbestos if it's not open either. The building has to be open to use those funds. That was the information we
Okay.
received from Commerce.
Yeah,
So,
in which case.
yeah.
Yeah, that complicates things. I was hoping that they would say it would be okay to use it if it was to make sure that the library reopened. Yeah,
What we got from them, we applied for some of that funding to do some of the work over there and they said, no, the library's not open.
Yeah.
You can't spend $1 of Commerce funds unless the library is open and being used actively as a library.
Who applied for the $350,000 grant, or 250? Is that?
city did.
it's in the city's name because as the
Jenny
owner
did
of
the
the
work.
building, I wrote
Yeah, Jenny.
it and Julie submitted it for the city, and as part of the process, Timberland had to write kind of an MOU basically that said that they would keep the library open for 10 years because that was a condition. But yeah, I did the writing and Julie submitted it. The city's the recipient.
Yeah, and without fixing the drainage, you're apt to get the mold issues again, which is one of the reasons that TRL pulled their folks out. Was
Yeah.
because of the air quality.
And I
So-
know I'm the bad guy here, the very bad guy. I just want to ask the question, is the building more important than the library itself? I see you, Diantha, I see, and I know to you, they are one and the same. They are one and the same, and maybe to a lot of people they are. But if it comes down to not being able to afford the building or to have a library somewhere. I grew up in not a historic library. I think I did kind of okay. And that's just my final thought on this. It is the building more important than the library, quote unquote, itself.
Well, and I will say, in my conversations, I'm not gonna share every bit of it, because it's all tentative. But the thought was to put the joint Raymond South Bend Library in a South Bend location. And we have our eye on. And that's as far as it goes. You know, there's not been any real action taken in any way, shape or form. It was just a, hey, what about this type of a deal? And in speaking with one of the Raymond representatives, they were more than willing to have that location in South Bend for the joint library. So,
Well, that sucks for
but that
Raymond.
doesn't mean that it's a go, you know, we're just looking at options. We're just exploring where are we at? What are we gonna do? How are we gonna do it? And in order to fully investigate and what makes the most sense, you have to explore these other options so that we can come back with real numbers and real possibilities. And we're not there yet. We're in the very beginning discussion on some of this stuff.
Any idea what
So-
the new library would cost?
Somewhere,
We're thinking around 350, maybe somewhere in that area.
350, 400,000 maybe.
To build a new library?
Yeah,
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
well,
Not
no, it isn't. There's,
Is it gonna be
I'm not gonna get into, it's all
supported then?
conceptual right now. We've got to run numbers and do everything. So it just, yeah, so, yeah, go ahead. I mean, why
I'm
not?
just, a question is.
Yeah.
You're talking about it.
Yeah,
This is a whole community.
right,
There are a lot of ideas, there are a lot
Sure.
of skills,
sure,
there's people with money.
yeah,
Why don't we all have a conversation, find out whether it's, how much it's the building, how much it's a library, how much, what it is we really want. Part of the conflict with TRL is going very digital. And a lot of people here either aren't digital because they're old and can't keep up with it, or they don't have enough money to have the bandwidth to make TRL's website. I have that.
well, and that's
So,
why we're having this discussion tonight.
right, but I
Is
think
so
it would
that we
be,
can let the council have a chance to discuss, we can bring it out before the people, so you guys have a chance to see, here's where our thoughts are.
right,
Here's where our options are. But in the end, TRL is driving a lot of this because they're the ones that put the facilities in there. And if they don't deem that building safe for their employees, they're not gonna put them in there.
okay.
So, and that's one
Right.
of the major decision factors here.
And one of my ideas, that if we could have a community discussion, might get into the pot and might make some sense to people is, you know, maybe the relationship with TRL needs to be different. People here wanna borrow real books and real DVDs. I don't know how to, what do they call it when you get it online?
download.
No, the movies.
Stream.
Oh,
Stream.
stream it,
I don't know how
yeah.
to stream, but I can go to the library and get a DVD. So DVDs are really cheap right now. Books are out on the market.
Well-
People historically, there, as a historical thing, people are interested in what a library used to be. I used to do what's called,
We're getting a little far
living-
afield
yeah,
here.
but this is my point,
Okay,
is that every 2 or 3 months, we sit here like mushrooms for months and months and months and months, waiting what's going to happen. And all these conflict issues with TRL and the city and the state and all these things are all mysterious and kept in the dark. Why can't we all be a part of a conversation and bring out the ideas that everybody has? My idea would be a living history library where people really went in and sat in the library and read books and could take books out, and we could have historic books and do the different cultures in our community could have sections of books. Those ideas could all come out, and there are hundreds of others.
Okay.
But
okay.
it's because of your,
This is not a public hearing.
no, it's
You've
not.
got way more than your 3 minutes, okay?
I don't think I've taken more than.
Oh,
3
yeah,
minutes.
you have, but
Well,
here's
so
the
is
thing.
everybody else. You open it up to everybody, and then when I talk, you want to shut me down.
Here's the thing, that's a conversation to have with TRL. We're not in control of content, we're not in control of form, it's
It
TRL.
takes
that
all of
has
this. It takes all of the parties together to come up with a solution. And if we're not having an open conversation where people can't be squashed because we didn't run for office, or we're not the administrator of a huge thing, in this, give us another venue outside of your meeting, which is not, hell, you don't have to come if you don't want to.
You're in our meeting.
Well, I know you're in your meeting, but we elected you too, so just,
No, you are in our meeting.
I am in your meeting, but you're trying to control the agenda and limiting my ability to speak and to be open to other ideas.
It's her job. Please let them close the meeting, all right? We can talk about this later.
Well, no, we need to get organized to,
Somewhere else.
It's all
This is
right.
their
I would
meeting,
like to
not ours.
suggest that perhaps the Friends could have an
the
open
friends,
community.
the friends can't
No.
criticize the
Here's
library.
what I'm saying, we can invite the city council and the mayor and Supervisor Hauk and get some folks from Timberland and try and get the public together and everybody can talk about their ideas.
All right, thank you.
That's what we need to do.
You're right, we do need a public meeting about this, though. We need a real.
And
meeting, all
that
discuss it
is coming,
thoroughly.
that is coming. This
But
is
if
an
you've already
initial discussion.
decided everything, it's too late.
Nobody has decided.
No, but
anything.
you're looking at your options, you're not considering all these other options, you're not hearing my point. If I talk too
I
much,
think I
it's because
am.
I don't think you're hearing me.
I think
Well,
I am
I'm sorry.
hearing your point, and I understand. I do understand, and I'm hearing what you're saying. And I'm sorry you're feeling frustrated, but there will be another opportunity when we have a public meeting. That is going to be coming, okay? Trust me, it's coming. And
Okay.
we've made 0 decisions at
I
this point. We're
apologize.
just, it's okay. We're exploring all options. I feel your passion and I understand you care deeply, and I respect that.
All right.
So thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, I do appreciate it.
Sorry about.
It's okay. It's all right. Okay, Counselor Williams, did you have anything?
Hi, how you doing? Yeah. Just waiting my turn. No, I thank you all for coming too, and I think it's definitely worthy looking into it. But as I said earlier, the point of it is that people, just like you guys discussed about not fixing the steps, you didn't understand that money was set for that, wasn't set for the asbestos. Maybe can't be changed. So it's learning and understanding, but you got to understand that if this comes down and boils down to financial parts that can't be raised, can't be fixed, then it won't happen. No matter how much you love the building, no matter how historical it is, if the money can't be raised and can't be fixed, it can't be fixed. It's just that simple. And I'm not saying that we don't look into it or we're not going to work toward it, but you need to understand that it's just not because you want it, it's going to happen. It just doesn't work that way. You can put as much effort into it, we can put as much effort into it, and it still may not happen. So just understand that it's not unworthy to work for, but there is that possibility it may never happen. So anyway, that's all.
Okay,
The librarians will.
do we have any future
Not this
agenda
one.
topics?
I don't-
Any future agenda topics from the council?
No.
Okay. We are adjourned.
This has been the City Council meeting for South Bend, Washington. Meeting was held on April 14th, 2025. The next City Council meeting will be held on April 28th, 2025.